How do you make your enemies fear you without saying a word? How do you strike fear into the hearts of your enemies without ever raising your voice, without issuing a threat, without even speaking? Real power isn't loud. It's not in shouting or in showing off. It's in the quiet. It's in the stillness. It's in the presence that makes others pause, hesitate, and question what's coming next. Think of standing face to face with a wild predator. It doesn't growl. It doesn't lunge. It just stares, calm, silent, deliberate. And somehow, that stillness is more terrifying than any roar ever could be. Or imagine a chess grandmaster mid-game, eyes locked on the board. His opponent fidgets, sweating, mind racing, desperate to predict the next move. But he sees nothing, because the grandmaster isn't giving anything away. That's power. The power of being unreadable. When people don't know what you're thinking, they fear what you might do next. In this video, we'll explore 7 silent strategies drawn from Stoic philosophy that will give you an unshakable presence. 1. That commands attention, demands respect, and leaves your enemies uncertain and afraid. Let's begin. Master your emotions. Let's start with one of the most underrated but powerful traits of all: emotional control. Want to make someone uncomfortable? Stay calm when they expect you to explode, because when someone pushes your buttons, tries to get under your skin, or throws emotional darts your way, the most natural response is to react. Anger, frustration, defensiveness. But here's the hard truth: reacting emotionally gives away your power. When you lash out, when you show irritation, when you lose composure, you're telling your enemy exactly what affects you. You've become predictable. You've given them control. But when you remain calm, unshaken, unbothered, that's when the real shift happens. Nothing confuses or unsettles an enemy more than someone they can't provoke. They throw fire, and you remain cool. They poke and prod, and you don't flinch. They get louder, and you get quieter. It shakes them, because suddenly they realize they're not in control. You are. Your emotional stability becomes your armor, and your silence, it becomes your weapon. This is where Stoic philosophy becomes your greatest ally. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic minds, once wrote, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." And that's the truth. Calm is not weakness. Calm is command. In a world full of noise, the quietest one often holds the most power. Earlier we talked about emotional control, how calmness can be more powerful than rage and silence more terrifying than threats. Now let's take that even deeper, because true strength doesn't show itself in noise. It doesn't come from yelling, arguing, or reacting. It comes from something far rarer and far more commanding: inner stillness. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." Take a moment and let that sink in. Strength is not the man who shouts the loudest. It's the one who stands calm, centered, unshaken, no matter the storm around him. Your ability to stay grounded under pressure, to remain poised in the middle of provocation, that is real power. Let me tell you a story. A man I know, let's call him Thomas, worked with someone who constantly tried to get under his skin. Snide remarks, passive-aggressive comments, subtle digs during meetings. At first, Thomas took the bait. He defended himself, tried to argue his point, tried to prove he wasn't weak. But every time he reacted, he lost ground. His opponent didn't care about being right. He just wanted control. And by reacting, Thomas was giving it to him. So Thomas made a decision. He stopped reacting. The next time the provocations came, he said nothing. No glare, no defense, no emotional shift, just stillness. He stayed calm, composed, and indifferent, like a mountain unmoved by the wind. And guess what happened? The man who once poked and prodded him for a reaction, he grew frustrated, confused, powerless. He couldn't get the reaction he was craving, and eventually, he stopped trying altogether. That's the power of emotional mastery. So how can you build it? Step 1. Know your triggers. Become aware of what sets you off and why. Understanding your internal landscape gives you control over it. Step 2. Breathe. Seriously. In tense moments, just pause. A few slow, deep breaths can stop you from reacting emotionally and help you reset. Step 3. Redefine strength. Know that keeping your cool isn't weakness, it's dominance. When your emotions don't control you, no one else can either. Because at the end of the day, true strength doesn't come from rage. It comes from restraint. True power isn't proven through volume. It's proven through silence. And in a world screaming for attention, your calm will become your greatest weapon. Maintain an unshakable presence. Let's move to the next silent strategy, one that amplifies everything you've just learned. Unshakable presence. There's a kind of confidence that doesn't have to speak. It doesn't ask for attention. It commands it. You've felt it before. When someone walks into a room and immediately shifts the energy, they don't need to talk. They don't need to prove anything. Their presence speaks for them. And it's not arrogance. It's not bravado. It's the quiet, grounded power of someone who knows exactly who they are. And that's the kind of presence we're about to explore next. We just talked about presence, the kind that doesn't shout but still fills a room. Now let's go one layer deeper, because true presence without arrogance is one of the most powerful traits a Stoic can carry. It's the kind of confidence that doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need to dominate. It simply exists. And in doing so, it commands respect. Here's the truth. When you truly know who you are, your values, your strengths, your purpose, you no longer feel the need to prove it to anyone. You don't need to talk over others. You don't need to interrupt to be heard. You don't need to perform. You just are. Your posture, your energy, the way you move, everything about you quietly signals, I belong here. I don't need permission. And people feel that. They sense it, often before you say a single word. You take up space, not with ego, but with certainty. And the world notices. This is where Stoic wisdom truly shines. Lao Tzu once said, "Silence is a source of great strength." Think about that. We often associate strength with noise, with bold statements and grand gestures. But sometimes, the quietest presence is the most powerful one in the room. Silence doesn't mean weakness. It means restraint, control. It means you're so grounded in who you are You don't feel the need to explain yourself. You don't need to fill every silence. You let your presence speak. The calm, composed individual who walks into a room and shifts the energy without raising their voice. That's the person others naturally turn toward. That's real power. That's unshakable presence. Let me share a story. A guy I know, let's call him Ethan, was never the loudest in the room. In fact, he was often the quietest. But whenever he entered a conversation, the tone would shift. People would sit up straighter. The energy would settle. Why? Because Ethan carried himself with quiet certainty. His posture was upright. His steps were deliberate. He didn't fidget or try to dominate attention. He didn't speak much, but when he did, people listened. Not because he demanded their attention, but because he didn't need it. He never tried to be impressive. He simply was. And that was enough. So how do you develop that kind of presence? Step 1. Stand tall. Posture matters more than you think. Keep your shoulders back, your head high, your spine straight. The way you hold yourself tells the world how you see yourself. Step 2. Move deliberately. Don't rush. Don't flail. Every action, whether you sit, walk, or gesture, should carry intention. It shows you're in control of yourself and your environment. Step 3. Embrace silence. Don't feel the need to fill every moment with chatter. Let your presence do the work. People notice when someone is fully present and not seeking attention. Because, in the end, true strength doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be flashy. True strength is quiet. It's grounded. It's unshakable. And the moment you stop trying to be noticed is the moment people start to notice you. In the last section, we explored how to maintain a presence so powerful it speaks before you ever open your mouth. Now, it's time to amplify that presence, not with words but with action. Because here's a truth most people forget. Words are cheap. Everyone talks about what they're going to do. Everyone makes promises. Everyone shares grand plans and big dreams. But talk is easy. Action. Real, consistent, unshakable action. That's rare. And that's what truly commands respect. Let your actions speak in a world obsessed with attention, noise, and self-promotion. The rarest and most powerful signal is quiet consistency. While others are busy trying to impress with words, you focus on doing the work. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to seek validation. You let your actions do all the talking, because when you consistently show up, when your discipline becomes obvious, when your resilience is unshakable, people notice. Even if they don't say it out loud, they're watching. And they're taking mental notes. Your calm execution becomes louder than any boast. Your commitment becomes more convincing than any promise. This is where Stoic wisdom shines. The Stoics weren't interested in grand speeches or constant declarations. They believed in doing, in showing up, in proving value through consistent action, not persuasive words. To them, your character isn't revealed by what you say. It's revealed by what you do when no one's watching, because words can be twisted, misunderstood, or forgotten. But action? Action is undeniable. Let me tell you a story. A man I know, we'll call him Jack, was always talking about success. He had bold dreams and big ideas. He'd go on and on about where he was headed, what he'd build, what he'd become. But week after week, nothing changed. He wasn't lazy. He wasn't unmotivated. He was just caught in the trap of talking instead of doing. Eventually, people stopped listening. They weren't inspired. They were bored. Because talk without follow-through becomes background noise. One day, Jack had a realization. He was being ignored, not because he lacked talent, but because he lacked evidence. So he stopped talking, stopped sharing his plans, and he started working quietly, consistently. No announcements, no updates, just execution. And something amazing happened. People noticed, not because he told them, but because they saw the change. His actions became his reputation, and that's when success started to follow him, not because he chased it, but because he earned it. So how can you let your actions speak louder than your words? Step 1. Focus on consistency. It's not about doing something once. It's about showing up every day, especially when no one's watching. Step 2. Be disciplined. Discipline is proof of intention. It shows you're serious, not just enthusiastic. Step 3. Stop explaining. You don't need to justify your goals to others. Let your results explain everything they need to know, because in the end, people won't remember what you said about yourself. They'll remember what you proved through action. And that is where quiet respect turns into lasting power. In the last section, we talked about letting your actions speak louder than your words, how discipline, consistency, and quiet execution build a kind of respect that words alone can never achieve. But what fuels that consistency? What makes your actions impossible to ignore? It's this: direction, excellence, and resilience. Stay consistent in the right direction. Even small steps, when taken consistently, create momentum. Don't underestimate the power of showing up daily, whether the results are immediate or not. As long as you're moving with intention, you're progressing. Progress isn't about speed, it's about direction. Pursue excellence. Don't settle for just getting it done. Don't aim for good enough. A Stoic doesn't chase applause, they chase excellence. Whatever you do, however small, do it to the best of your ability. That habit of excellence will show up in your results, your habits, your presence, and how others see you. Build unshakable. Resilience. Life will test you. It will throw obstacles, delays, losses, and frustrations your way. But here's the truth. The more you endure, the more unstoppable you become. Every time you choose to push through instead of give up, you're adding bricks to the fortress of your mind. And in the end, what you do, especially when it's hard, says more about who you are than anything you could ever say. So stop explaining, stop promising, show up, deliver, repeat. Let your actions speak so loudly that words become unnecessary. If you're finding value in this mindset, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more Stoic insights that cut through the noise and get straight to what matters most. Never overreact to insults. Now, let's talk about one of the most underrated and powerful tactics in the Stoic arsenal. Don't overreact when you're insulted. Sounds simple, right? But when someone throws a cheap shot, when they mock you, undermine you, try to trigger you, the natural response is to defend yourself, to fight back, to prove that they're wrong. But here's the truth. When you react emotionally, you hand them control. Every time you lose your cool, you confirm to them that their words have power, that they've touched something sensitive, that they've found your weak spot, and that's exactly what they want. But here's the Stoic secret. Indifference is power. When someone insults you and you respond with silence, no glare, no sigh, no retort, just unshaken calm, you've already won. They may not say it out loud, but inside they're thinking, why doesn't this bother him? Why can't I get a reaction? Your calmness makes their insult feel meaningless. Your indifference makes them feel small. And yes, it frustrates them. Why? Because people who insult others usually want attention. They want control. They want your emotional reaction to feed their ego. When you give them nothing, they're left with their own emptiness, and you keep your peace. The Stoics taught this for centuries. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." You can't always control what people say, but you can always control your response. And that is where true strength lives, not in retaliation, but in restraint. Let me share a story. There's a woman I know. Let's call her Linda. At work, one of her colleagues constantly took jabs at her. Sarcasm, passive-aggressive remarks, subtle digs in front of others. At first, Linda tried to defend herself, tried to explain, tried to clear the air, but it only got worse. So she changed her strategy. She stopped reacting. No more defending, no more eye rolls, just calm, composed, silence. And over time, her colleague got quieter. The insults stopped landing because they stopped getting a reaction. Linda didn't win by fighting back. She won by being untouchable. In the last story, we saw how Linda learned to master her emotional response. By staying calm in the face of insults, she did something few people manage to do. She took back control. Because here's the hard truth. The moment you react emotionally to someone's insult, you're handing them the remote control to your mood, and they will press buttons. But when you stay calm, when you remain composed, even in the face of blatant disrespect, you flip the power dynamic entirely. Linda learned this the hard way. At first, she defended herself. She explained. She tried to clear the misunderstanding, but it didn't work. It only made things worse. The more she reacted, the bolder her colleague became, until one day, she stopped. She stopped explaining. She stopped engaging. She didn't even flinch when the next sarcastic jab came. She just observed. Calm, present, indifferent. And her colleague? They began to shrink, because insults only thrive when they get a reaction. Without that, they wither and die. Linda didn't win by fighting. She won by refusing to play the game. So how can you do the same? Step 1. Self-awareness. When someone insults you, take a moment. Pause. Breathe. You're not just reacting, you're choosing. Step 2. Control your emotional response. Anger is often a gift you give to your enemy. Refuse to give it. Step 3. Embrace indifference. Not every insult deserves a response. In fact, silence is often the most powerful answer. Because when you remain unaffected, unmoved by cheap shots, you become untouchable. That's the Stoic way. Control what they know about you. Let's move into something even more strategic. Information control. In a world full of watchers, people analyzing, judging, calculating, it's easy to give away too much of yourself without realizing it. Your plans, your goals, your vulnerabilities, your emotional triggers. And the more people know, the more they can use. But here's the truth. Mystery is power. When you control what others know about you, you protect yourself. You become harder to read, harder to predict, harder to manipulate. Because the moment someone can predict your behavior, your desires, your fears, your reactions, they gain leverage over you. That's why you must learn to control your signal. Not everything needs to be shared. Not everyone deserves full access to your mind, your plans, or your weaknesses. This isn't about lying. It's not about being fake. It's about choosing what you reveal and to whom. Think about it. Who do you trust with your thoughts, your emotions, your ambitions? Now ask yourself, do they deserve that access? The more unpredictable you are, the more difficult you are to control. And that's exactly what keeps you in a position of strength. People can't use what they don't know, so stay grounded, stay observant, but most of all, stay private. Not silent, strategic. Because sometimes the greatest power isn't in what you, it's in what you choose not to share. In the last section, we discussed how controlling what others know about you isn't deception, it's protection. And now we take that lesson to its full power. Because the less you reveal, the more unpredictable you become. And in a world full of manipulators, distractions, and hidden agendas, unpredictability is your shield. Let's be clear, not everyone deserves access to your inner world. When you overshare your goals, your weaknesses, your stressors, you may believe you're building trust. But too often, you're building vulnerability in the wrong hands. That's where the Stoic strategy of strategic opacity becomes a game changer. Remember this quote from Sun Tzu: "Appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak." Read that again. It's not about being fake. It's about controlling perception. It's about playing chess in a world full of checkers. Because when people can't figure out your next move, they hesitate, they guess, they doubt, and that gives you the upper hand every time. Let me tell you a story. There's a guy I know. Let's call him Chris. He used to be an open book at work, shared everything with his coworkers, his goals, his personal struggles, his stress, even his doubts. He believed it, made him relatable, and at first, people listened. But slowly, that openness came back to bite him. When he mentioned feeling overwhelmed, suddenly, people started questioning his abilities. When he expressed frustration, they'd use it to corner him or assign blame. He realized something painful but powerful. His transparency had become a weapon used against him. So Chris changed. He didn't become cold or fake. He simply became selective. He stopped oversharing. He stopped announcing every goal or every struggle. He kept some things to himself, not out of fear, but out of strategy. And you know what happened? People stopped pushing him. They started respecting him more. Because they couldn't predict him anymore. They couldn't read him. They couldn't control him. His silence became strength. His mystery became his power. So how do you control what others know about you? Step 1. Be intentional with your words Ask yourself before speaking, does this person really need to know this? Step 2. Embrace mystery. You don't need to be distant, but you don't need to be fully transparent either. Let people wonder a little. It keeps them cautious. Step 3. Show strength strategically. Sometimes it's wise to hide your full potential. Other times, you show it just enough to shift the balance of power, because when people don't know your full hand, they tread lightly. In the end, your power lies in your silence, your composure, and your unpredictability. You don't need to be loud to be strong. You don't need to overshare to be respected. You just need to stay grounded in who you are while keeping the world guessing. Control your narrative. Protect your peace. And remember, mystery isn't weakness. It's your most underrated strength. If you've stayed with us this far, you're clearly someone who values depth and strategy. So do me a favor. Drop a comment below that says, "Thank God I found this mindset." It lets me know this message resonated with you. And if you're enjoying this content, hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps keep these Stoic insights coming, and it means the world. We've come this far learning about power, presence, and protection. Now it's time to unlock one of the most tactically powerful Stoic tools of all. Make power moves in silence. In today's world, everyone is quick to share. They post their plans. They announce their goals. They broadcast every big move before it even happens. But there's something quietly intimidating about the person who stays silent. The one who moves strategically, privately, and deliberately. That's where real strength lies, in making power moves without making noise. Here's the truth. Every time you share your next step, whether it's a business idea, a career change, or a personal goal, you open the door to outside influence. Some people will doubt you. Others will offer unsolicited advice. A few may even try to stop you, consciously or not. And the worst part? All that noise can create internal hesitation, because when others start questioning your path, you start questioning it too. But when you stay silent, when you keep your goals close to your chest and let your actions do the talking, no one can interfere. You eliminate distractions. You remove resistance. You protect your momentum. And when the results speak for themselves, people have no choice but to respect what you've built. They didn't see it coming. They didn't have time to block it. All they can do now is witness it. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." In other words, don't talk about it, be about it. You don't need to explain your dreams. You don't need to justify your vision. You don't need to defend your path. Your C2, consistency, your progress, your discipline. That's the only explanation you'll ever need. Let me tell you a story. A woman I know, we'll call her Emma, used to be the kind of person who always shared her next move. Every new goal, every new idea, every step she planned, she'd talk about it with friends, family, and coworkers. At first, it felt empowering. She thought she was creating momentum. But gradually, she began to notice a pattern. The more she shared, the more people questioned her. The more opinions flooded in, and the more uncertain she became. Some doubted her. Others offered advice that felt more like discouragement. And eventually, she started second-guessing herself. So she made a shift. Emma stopped announcing. She started building, in silence. No more updates, no more broadcasting, just quiet execution. And when her goal was finally achieved, when the results were undeniable, no one could challenge her. She didn't need applause. She didn't need permission. She just let her success do the talking. So how do you move in silence? Step 1. Stop announcing. Let people wonder. Let them assume. Just don't give away your strategy. Step 2. Focus on execution. Channel your energy into building, not explaining. Step 3. Trust your vision. You don't need outside approval to walk your path. You just need unshakable commitment. Because the less noise you make, the more powerful your next move becomes. In the last chapter, we explored the quiet force of moving in silence, how keeping your goals private protects your power, and how results speak louder than any announcement ever could. Now let's end with one of the most liberating truths you'll ever embrace. Be unapologetically yourself. In a world obsessed with approval, image, and fitting in, there is a rare kind of power in being completely, unapologetically yourself. Most people bend. They adjust their opinions. They shrink their personalities. They dilute their truth just to be accepted. But the truth is, when you stop seeking approval, you become unstoppable. The moment you stop trying to please everyone around you is the moment you start becoming yourself. And when you become fully aligned with your own values, you stop performing. You start living. And guess what? People respect that. Let me tell you about Jake. Jake used to be a chameleon, always adjusting to please the room. He'd laugh at jokes he didn't find funny, stay quiet when he disagreed, and never spoke too boldly about his own wins. At first it worked. He was liked. But inside, he felt empty. Until one day, Jake decided he was done hiding. He stopped filtering himself. He started speaking his truth. He stopped caring whether others approved. And something unexpected happened. The moment Jake stopped performing, people began to genuinely respect him. His confidence grew. His circle shifted. And most importantly, he felt free. He no longer needed permission to be himself. So how do you get there? Step 1. Stop seeking validation. Your worth is not up for a vote. Step 2. Embrace your uniqueness. The things that make you different, they're not weaknesses. They're your superpowers. Step 3. Live by your own code. Don't borrow standards. Set your own and stand by them, because the day you stop trying to fit in is the day you finally become whole. This is the essence of Stoic wisdom. The Stoics taught that true freedom doesn't come from power, wealth, or status. It comes from self-mastery, from living by your own virtue, regardless of what the world thinks, from no longer being a slave to opinions, trends, or fear. Because when you know who you are, you don't have to explain. You don't have to justify. You just live, and that authenticity, that grounded, unapologetic confidence, that's what makes you truly powerful. So here's your final reminder. You don't need permission. You don't need applause. You don't need to perform. Be unapologetically you. Live by your own standards. Stand in your own strength. And the World will learn to respect you on your terms. Before you go, a new kind of call to action. If this message struck a chord with you, don't just click away. Leave a comment that says, "No more masks. I choose my power." Let the world know you're done shrinking, and if you're walking this Stoic path with us, hit that like button to show you're part of a movement that values strength, clarity, and inner truth. Subscribe if you're ready for more truth-telling, mask-dropping, power-building wisdom like this. And remember, you don't need to be loud to be powerful. You don't need to fit in to be respected. You just need to be real. Stay grounded. Stay fearless. And above all, stay true. We'll see you in the next one.